All you need for Christmas.
News Talk's Christmas Cash Machine. The Football Show on Off the Ball.
With Sky. Watch Premier League, Women's Super League, EFL, Scottish Premiership and much more. Live on Sky Sports.
I'm prepared to do anything I can to play for my country again.
Do it then. What about your start to the game?
It wasn't bad, was it? Why should an honest answer be a mistake?
How can a modern day manager not have a mobile phone?
Why should he?
Now, welcome along, Football Show coming at you. Interesting evening at the World Cup. If you're just tuning in, Marcela, Mora, Araujo will join us later on to talk Argentina. I'm told, I don't believe it, but I'm told Kevin Kilbane has followed through on promise to join me live on the air. Kevin Kilbane, good evening.
Good evening, Joe.
Oh, look at this. He's here. He's not even at a metro this time. Wow.
No, I stayed behind. I stayed in the media, what do you call it, the media lounge here. So, and it is quite a fancy lounge, Joe, I'll give it that.
Yeah.
So I stayed around just so I could talk to you. What better way to spend my evening after watching Argentina and Poland?
And is there a special lounge for players with 100 caps or more, or do you have to mix with media?
Oh, I mix with the mediocrity of media. Yeah, that's where I am. I'm round it all, Joe, you know?
Oof, I wouldn't say you like that. There's a nice plant behind you there. I mean, you're framed beautifully.
Yeah, I know. I stage manage this. I've seen a few of the guys around here. You know, Dan McDonald's floating around today. Gavin Kuminski. Who else? There's quite a few of the guys. Yeah, Ken Early. Yeah, all the top journals. You know.
Anyone who's anybody made it out there.
That's it. Couldn't make it, Joe. No.
I couldn't make it. No. So you are at the stadium. You've just seen Argentina beat Poland 2-0. We have seen Mexico beat Saudi Arabia 2-1. We'll get into the minutiae of what happened this evening in just a second. But the headline news for anybody who's been busy today and is just catching up with us. Australia, earlier on, they went through to the knockout stages for the second time in their history. They beat Denmark. Denmark gone. Second string, France, beaten by Tunisia. Of course, they were already through as group winners. And now this evening, Argentina and Poland go through as well. So if you're thinking about your weekend, the last 16 pitches up as follows. Argentina, Australia will play each other. That'll be your Saturday evening game, 7 o'clock Irish time. You will, before that on the Saturday, have Netherlands against USA. And then the Sunday, 3 o'clock, you'll see France take on Poland. And then Sunday, 7 o'clock, England will play Senegal. So that's how the last 16 looks thus far. There was an extraordinary period in the game this evening where, Kev, we were down to yellow cards.
Yeah, it's crazy. Absolutely. We were all checking our phones during the game. What's the story here? We were waiting for the Mexico result to come through, seeing what was happening. Obviously, Mexico were 2 up at the time, and we were hearing Mexico on 7 yellow cards, Poland on 5, Poland go through on yellows. We were like, it's crazy. I mean, obviously everyone's asking the question then, has anyone ever gone through on fair play? And I think Senegal got put out a few years ago, I think it was, somebody told me.
I'll take your word for it. I don't have an army of Canadian researchers telling me what's what, Kev. Sorry.
No, there's no age. I'm getting...
How many assistants do you have?
I'm just getting my own information from the internet, asking people around me. You know, Joe, sometimes you can talk to people. I've always said this, Joe. Talk to people. It's good for you.
It's best avoided, I find.
Honestly. Yeah, I can clearly see that.
So it was extraordinary. And we were watching the BBC. And we definitely felt there was a slight lag in the BBC fully understanding what was going on. So everybody was scrambling a bit.
Yeah.
I presume, I don't know if you've been in a situation like that. I presume somehow, some way, the Polish players must have been told no more yellows.
100%. Well, you could see the tempo of the game for the last 10 minutes. It was almost like watching Ireland against Holland in Italia 90, if you remember that famous game, where nobody wanted to score. The ball was just being played in the middle of the park. Argentina just keeping the ball, and Poland just had every single player behind the ball, like not even trying to get close that there was any chance of getting a yellow card. But I even in the first half, you're watching the game and you're thinking, surely to God, Poland are going to have to come out and get a goal at some stage, because then we're hearing Mexico have gone in front, then it's getting dicey for the goal difference and things like that, and goals scored, and then they continue to play the same way, offered no threat. Then we're hearing Mexico to go 2-0 up, and then obviously Argentina get the second goal as well. And if there's another goal for Argentina or a goal for Mexico, they're done. So, but they never changed the game plan at all. It was madness. And then obviously towards the end of the game, it was down to yellow cards, and it was crazy stuff, mad stuff, really. When you're watching the match like that and you're realising, absolutely, Joe, the word must have come through from the bench. Do not touch anybody. Do not go anywhere near Messi when he's going on one of these dribbles. Stay clear. Stop the yellow cards. But it still didn't take away from the fact is if Argentina scored, they're done anyway. Yeah. So, I don't know. It was a crazy one. It was a crazy one to watching the game under those circumstances.
Poland were a disgrace, really. They were shocking. They basically excommunicated Lewandowski from the team. They said, Lewandowski, you go up there. And I'd say you had a great appreciation for it at the stadium. I mean, he must have been 30, 40 yards from any teammate at any one time. No. They never tried to do anything with the ball. They were really abysmal, actually. I mean, I wouldn't have been too upset if they'd been kicked out of the thing. For Lewandowski, maybe you'd like to see them go through, but they brought nothing to the party.
You're spot on with that for Lewandowski. You kind of want the minute, but they offered nothing. They offered nothing in the first game against Mexico, and even in the second game against the Saudis, they weren't great. And you're thinking, there's got to come a time. Obviously, they got the goals in that game, so they win it. So you have to say job done in that, but they weren't great. But more so, for Mexico, anyone that's watched Mexico, and I pointed it out to you and the guys before the show, it's probably the worst Mexican team that I've ever seen at a World Cup. Like everyone, sure, all Irish fans would have appreciated watching Mexico over the years, the little bit of spark that the teams bring. Mexico have been dreadful, by the way, and watching their game against Argentina, the way that they just tried to stifle the life out of Messi and Argentina, they deserve to lose that game. So out of the two, I was half wanting the Saudis to go and win the game today or get something from the game, so they got out, because the way that Poland and Mexico have approached this tournament, they didn't deserve to do anything. Did you say Poland have France, Joe? That's right, isn't it?
Yeah, Poland play France on the Sunday at 3 o'clock Irish time, so they've no chance in that really unless they change tack. And Mexico, Mexico for their approach against Argentina almost deserved for a time to go out on yellow cards there, because they were a disgrace in that game as well. They're two awful teams. They're bringing nothing to the party.
No, exactly. I agree. Both sides. And that's why I said you were half hoping Saudi Arabia could actually pit them both and get out in the end, because you were obviously desperate to see Messi and Argentina go on. Argentina weren't great, actually, in that Saudi game, as we all know, but at least they were trying against Mexico. They were trying to go at them. Obviously, they needed to get themselves back into the group. They did that, got the result, but Mexico were just dreadful, offered nothing going forward, as they showed the same against Poland. And then you try and shape up to try to get something against Saudi Arabia tonight. I mean, I didn't see the game, so it's hard for me to judge that Mexican side on tonight's performance. But Poland and Mexico, in the games that I've seen them play, have been awful, dreadful stuff from those two sides. Yeah.
So, being at the game, being at the stadium, with a view to the French game, what are Poland trying to do? Because just from what I saw on TV, and the game did take on an odd quality, obviously, for the last 20 minutes, half an hour, but it looked in the main like it was just boot the ball along to Lewandowski and let's see what the big man can do.
Well, before this game tonight, I think we heard that Poland hadn't strung 6 passes together in the first 2 matches. Now, you think about that for a moment. How many times do you see a team passing across the back 4? You could do 6 passes in 20 seconds of a game, couldn't you?
Yeah.
And they hadn't strung 6 passes before tonight, so I don't even know what it was tonight. I can't remember them stringing 6 passes together in this game either. And as you say, even goal kicks from Chesney, they were playing almost 80s football. Everyone squeezed into one side of the pitch, lump it long to Lewandowski. Lewandowski looks to flick it on. If he wins the header, it goes through to nobody. The opposition win the ball back, and then everyone from Poland filters back into shape. So I just wasn't excited at all. They offered nothing to me, Poland, in this tournament, where I'm going to see. And they've got was it Zielinski from Napoli, good player, obviously Lewandowski. They've got Milik. They've got good players in the side, players that get good link-up men, a lot of pace in the side. Krakowiak as well is another one who you're thinking, he can bring something. He's obviously played at a high level, good experience, but just awful stuff, Joe, watching them. And I mean, I wouldn't want to say I want to go and watch a team and hope they get beat from France, but I hope they at least show that they can go and show a bit of the talent that they've got within the side and go and attempt to go and beat France, because if they play like that, France are going to destroy them. Yeah.
Are you going to apologise to Kev for saying he'd be a no-show earlier on, says Graham? Absolutely not, Graham.
Yeah, apologise.
Absolutely not.
You're very not. You're an anonymous character when you're on radio. You can get away with anything, That's the thing. And there's got to be times when you need to be held accountable for what you say.
I told the Irish public at 7 there was no chance you'd make it. None. Unreliable.
Oh, well, I made it to the day. I sat in a metro station talking to you 2 nights ago.
It was borderline unusable.
Get out of town. The Brazilian fans coming past me with drums and everything. I could hardly hear you speak, but I did my best for you, Joe. I'm always here for you. You know that.
You're better off not hearing my questions. How was Messi this evening?
He's class. He was class, wasn't he? Missed the pen, obviously, but second half, a couple of little dribbles. And Joe, all the Argentina fans where I was sat were just down to my left and all around the back of the goal to my left. And every time he gets it, the Argentine fans are up. And with that he had a dribble where he kind of run out of space towards the left-hand side and scuffed his shot.
Yeah.
But the buzz in the stadium, just the lift that Messi gives everybody, it's special watching him play. And I think everyone was coming here tonight hoping it wasn't his last World Cup game, but there was that in the back of the mind. If Argentina do get beat tonight, it'll be Messi's last ever World Cup match. But I'm certainly glad that's not the case, and we get to see him again. But it was nice to see him in the flesh anyway, what is probably his last World Cup.
Yeah, and look, it's great. I mean, you're such a fan and such a lover of football as well, and you've literally played against him, so not everybody can say that. But he is such an interesting figure to watch in the flesh. You can't but be drawn to him. It happens on TV as well, to be fair. You're always scanning the screen on TV. Where is he? What's he doing?
Yeah.
I mean, so often he's not doing very much. Do you see this as Messi being super intelligent, or is he just conserving himself at this stage of his career? Obviously, it was super intelligence for the goal the other evening when Di Maria gave it to him. But in the main, is he just walking around conserving energy, or how do you read it?
I think it's probably a bit of both, Joe. I think you're right. I think he knows that he can't maintain the level of energy-wise and performance-wise like that, because he probably recognises he might not have enough in the legs. But unbelievably strong. You can still see players bouncing off him. You can still see that he runs faster with the ball than without it. Actually, when I think he was put through there tonight, and he's tried to get up ahead of steam, and the Polish defender just come back and took the ball off him. So he's obviously not as dynamic as he once was. I think that's fair to say, but there is still that buzz whenever he touches the ball, and he still has that little bit of skill, that little bit of magic. He hardly gave the ball away tonight. I was half looking to try and get his own individual stats tonight, because a couple of longer balls that he tried to hit that didn't come off for him. But in terms of keeping the ball and his recognition of space around him, taking the ball under pressure, always 1 and 2 touch passing, I don't think there's anyone better. Do you know, Joe, and I know that they're talking coming over to the MLS and he'll be playing for Miami for the next few years, but he could play as a holding midfielder in some of the top sides. He could go back to Barcelona and do a Xavi role for another 3 or 4 years. That's the thing where you half think, does he need to go to the MLS where he can play into his 40s in the MLS? Surely he's got another 2 or 3 more years where he can play as a holding midfielder, or just a guy that makes the game tick over, because I can imagine him playing in that role and just never giving the ball away, and still being able to bring that little bit of magic once or twice in a game by beating a few players and sticking them in the top corner. So I'd love to see him carrying in Europe and still go for another Champions League, not just this season, but beyond that.
Yeah. I was reading your Irish Times piece today, Kev.
Really? How was that?
It was very good. No, it was very good.
I'll always wait for you to be the critique that I would be wanting to stand by my side, Joe,
Very fetching photo. Got your suit and tie and jacket on.
Someone told me, I think it was actually Johnny Ward, told me I looked like an estate agent.
Okay, fair enough. I don't know what I was saying.
So as soon as I mentioned Johnny Ward,
I just panicked. So what jumped out, a few things. You talk about England, but you started off talking about Belgium. So tomorrow, just to kind of get our heads around tomorrow, we have Belgium, who are on 3 points, against Croatia on 4 points. Let's assume for a second that Morocco will beat poor old luckless Canada. So Morocco have every chance of going to 7 points, which means Belgium may very well have to beat Croatia, which is quite something. You are, I'd have to say, I don't disagree with you, by the way, but it's quite interesting. You're pretty scathing of Roberto Martinez. There's a few things. You mentioned the fact that, akin to Southgate, he never did a huge amount at club level to get the job of guiding some of the best players in Europe, and you're not sure if he's the right man for the job. You were shocked he didn't know about De Bruyne's interview, where De Bruyne had said the team were too old. Yeah. And you said as well that you've heard, I guess in the world of football, that Lukaku fell out with Martinez at Everton, not over his coaching methods, but over his man management. And you said that Martinez appears to court the media. He's polished and quotable, but that is not the feeling within the game from players that I know he has managed. So that's pretty scary. Yeah, players you've talked to, they don't rate him.
stand by that, yeah, absolutely stand by that. No, and again, it's not necessarily down to his coaching methods either. Plenty actually. But again, I'll stand by my point where I'm saying there. I think that what's he done with this Belgian side is this his third major tournament? I think it's his third major tournament with Belgium. And there's no progression. There is no progression with the side. If anything, well, it's total regression. They're nowhere near the level that they were 4 years ago, nowhere near the level they were probably 6 years ago when all these youngsters were coming into the side. And it looks like, to me, another one's got away from them. Now, they could go and beat Croatia, however unlikely that seems to me, given the last two performances, because the last two were awful. They shouldn't have won the game against Canada. Dreadful throughout that match, but they had the killer instinct and got the win. And Morocco showed their quality and outplayed them. So I can't see them getting anything out of Croatia. They may do, and then you hold your hands up and say fair play to you. But no, absolutely. Within the game, there are a number of players that virtually everyone that I've ever spoken to actually would not have great things to say about him. No.
Wow, that's incredible, because he is so polished and so good in front of camera that you would think, oh, this is a stand-up guy.
Well, exactly. Well, there you go. That's what it is. I think he's gone down a route where he's managed to get a lot of people on side, hasn't he? Where that feeling is, what a great coach. The feeling is, what a great man. And you know what? He may just have that instinct as a coach where he actually just doesn't give a crap about any of his players. It's almost about, I've got to have a persona to make sure that I'm continuously going to get the next job. So I've got a good image with owners of football clubs, with CEOs of football clubs, and ultimately, I'm a decent coach on the training ground, which he actually is, no doubt about that. But when it comes down to intricacies of dealing with top-class players, I think that's where, ultimately, I think his downfall has been.
And so, to be fair here, it's important I make the point that he's not here to defend himself, and I dare say lots of players think he is a very good man manager, and these things can be subjective. But when the players you've spoken to talk about him behind the scenes, like, there's different types of poor man management. He doesn't strike me as somebody who'd be super aggressive and in people's faces. So what is it? What would be the complaint?
I think it's more the fact is that he wouldn't necessarily be the sort of man that he would tell it to you straight, when a lot of the top class players want it to be told straight, whether you're not in the team, whether you're not playing well, whether you're going to be sold or whatever it's going to be.
Yeah.
You want to be told straight by the manager. I think that is the case. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, it's difficult if him and Lukaku fell out, for instance, at Everton, which you heard, then, I presume they've made it up to some extent or other. But like the De Bruyne interview, what we can certainly say, the De Bruyne interview where he said that he thought Belgium were too old to win the World Cup.
Yeah.
That did not sound a note of a happy camper.
No, exactly. There's a talk that they've fallen out as well, isn't there? Again, and invariably, you know how a lot of these journalists are all, certainly from different national teams or national journalists from different countries, invariably they've got an in with an agent that represents one of the country's top players. And if the stories are coming out, invariably they're true, that, Hazard and De Bruyne and Vertonghen and all these guys are not on the same page right now, then kind of what's going to happen down the line. We've seen it with France in the past. We've seen it with Holland in the past when they've gone to major tournaments. That once there's a rift within the camp, then it's gone. It's almost done, and that's what seems to have happened before they've actually met up on this for this World Cup here.
Yeah. Well, look, again, Roberto Martinez not here, and I dare say he'd have his own version of events, and maybe players haven't always been great with him. But it's definitely quite striking the perspective that you've had from talking to players in the game.
Yeah.
On England then last night. So Wales have not had a great tournament, it's fair to say. Rashford and Foden.
Joe, Wales, you could probably legitimately say they've been the worst team in this tournament for what they've offered.
Second to Qatar. Surely Qatar are worse than Wales.
Well, Qatar had a bit of a goal, though, didn't they, in some of the games? Qatar were, they could have had a couple of penalties, maybe hard done by against Senegal, I think it was as well.
Yeah. So Wales that bad?
Yeah, they've offered nothing going forward. They've not even... They got a draw against the USA, and that was down to the US, who, I spoke about the US. There's a lot of energy in the team not creating chances. Didn't necessarily go and kill Wales off, and then they sat back for the last 20 minutes, and they were gifted Wales a penalty. Their only real shot on goal, to be honest with you. And then they go into the next game, and then they sit back against Iran. And there's your chance. That's your chance to sit on 4 points going into the game against England, where you take your chances then, and you think that you might have a chance of maybe even nicking a draw against England, but nothing against Iran. And then they go into the England game and offer nothing again. So I think you can legitimately, easily say that they were actually on a par with Qatar the way that they've gone out of the tournament.
Yeah, very disappointing. England much better in the second half than the first. Rashford and Foden to the fore. Now Gareth Southgate has a dilemma.
He does, yeah. I mean, I don't know what you're thinking on that yourself with the Foden issue, but he is England's best player. He's certainly been England's best player for the last 18 months, albeit at club level. We're judging him from what he's been doing at Manchester City. Outstanding talent, yet this outstanding talent can't make his way into the starting 11 with England. And one or two of the things, I think it's safe to say that his form has been a lot better and it's a lot more consistent than Raheem Sterling. And I think if you're looking at England's front three, I would have probably looked at Kane, Foden off the left and Saka on the right. I think that's probably where he first. So, but he went with Sterling, who obviously scored in the first game against Iran, and maybe gone with him because of big game experience. But again, we looked at even Trent Alexander-Arnold. Certainly in the second game, where they were playing against the US, everything was in the US middle of the park. The energy that was showing, it was in a wide area where you need good quality, and Trent Alexander-Arnold seemed like he was perfect for that game. And just always seems that Southgate, again, it's hard to say sometimes. He's not necessarily seen it, but it looks quite easy at times, and it's easy to say, and I grant that it's easy to say, but if you've got a player like Alexander-Arnold in that sort of game against the US, I think that it's tailor-made for him to put him in. Now, he brings him on last night for 15, 20 minutes or whatever it was he brought him on for in that game against Wales, and it just seems crazy why he's got him in the squad, because his third choice, he's not going to use him, and it's almost like, what is the point in having him there? He put him on there last night to maybe sidestep the questions of why is Trent Alexander-Arnold not playing. And I understand maybe in some of the big games you might not necessarily want to use him because he has struggled defensively, and he does struggle defensively, no doubt about that. And Kyle Walker's probably a better defender than him, but I think in that sort of game against the US, there's no real chance they're going to get him behind. Creativity-wise, they're not the best, I don't feel, in the final third. It seemed tailor-made for him. So, yes, maybe Rashford put himself in there. 2 excellent goals from him. Certainly the first free kick was excellent. But Foden is a must in my mind if England are going to go and progress, yeah.
It's interesting, they switch wings in the second half. So generally Southgate seems to prefer inverted wingers. It's such a contrast to your day. I mean, I'd say you spent 95% of your time left-footed on that left wing for Ireland.
I think that's fair to say. I did play a couple of games on the right-hand side, but yeah, definitely, Joe. Definitely, either left wing or left back. Yeah, that's how it would have gone for me. There was that feeling, there wasn't a few. You remember when you were a kid growing up, there wasn't many left-footers that probably were around. And if you were a left-footer, you were automatically put on left midfield or left back.
Yeah.
If there was another one that was a bonus, you might fit them into centre midfield. But that was always the case, and that seemed to be just the mentality probably when I first went into the game. Yeah, exactly. Stay wide. When I was a kid, Joe, I've said this before. It was, to me, didn't necessarily have a responsibility to get back even.
Yeah.
Responsibility on the fullback, get the ball to me. That's what it was. Stay wide, get the ball to me. You go and beat your man and get crosses, get shots at goal or whatever it was. But predominantly get crosses, and that was the responsibility. Whereas we know how the game's evolved. That evolved while I was playing long ago when Jose Mourinho's side had Duff and Robin.
Yeah.
And he had to try and fit them both into the side. So he put Ian Robin on the right, and he was magnificent at cutting inside.
And do you like, I mean, it's amazing. I think inverted wingers, the Robin example, has almost become the preferred option. And it's definitely Southgate's preferred option. Do you think in hindsight, if you were starting your career over again, that you would be spending most of your career on the right-hand side and that you would prefer that? Like, why has it become so popular, do you think?
Well, it used to be nice when I was an option. When I played at West Brom, I was probably a little bit freer, and you're playing in the Championship. You're not stepping up to Premier League level. But I was always switched from left to right wing. It certainly helped a lot. Just put a bit of uncertainty in fullbacks' minds of who they're going to be coming up against. But I think you're right, Joe. Yeah, when I was starting out, it probably would have been where you would have had an added responsibility on the right hand side and probably nurtured more as a right-sided player than a left. Whereas I played wing back, and I enjoyed playing wing back because I think it suited my style of play. But yes, as just an answer to your question, I think it would have been trying to nurture me as a right-sided player, yeah.
Yeah. I wonder, is it because fullbacks get forward more, so you have that wide option and then you have the option of cutting in on your stronger foot? Is that the thinking?
That's exactly it. I mean, and I probably could have been an option to play at left back as well. Certainly in my younger days, where I would have had the energy and the pace to try to get up the left hand side with an inverted winger, a right sider playing in front of me on the left hand side up top. But invariably, you'll always find, occasionally you'll see it here and there. The Danish fullback Mela is a right footer that plays at fullback, but predominantly you'll always see the fullbacks playing on the natural side so they can get the ball out of the feet and not putting themselves in trouble. Yeah. When they have an opportunity to step forward, yeah.
You've got to be really good to do it, a.k.a. Dennis Irwin.
Yeah. Well, he's the best, isn't he? It's still not mentioned when it comes to Premier League best fullback, but Dennis Irwin, in my opinion, is the best fullback in Premier League. In the Premier League, he'd make my best 11. Yeah, he would.
I totally agree. Do you know what's funny? Well, look, Ashley Cole was sensational as well, but you'd find Irwin a place. Do you know what's funny?
Technically, he was nowhere near as good as Dennis. Nowhere near.
No, agree on that.
Dennis could. He's got both feet and free kicks and his passing ability.
Yeah.
Yes, Cole had the pace, absolutely. But as a one-on-one defender and everything, Dennis would stand up to be counted with Ashley Cole, no problem.
It's funny when you watch the old games back on Sky, when they show old Man United games back. Irwin is one of the few players, I would say, who has aged brilliantly. Never gives the ball away. Like, even his body shape, he's super slim. Like, he'd fit into today's mold perfectly. 2-footed, brilliant on the ball. Like, so tidy on the ball. Actually, he'd be even more valuable in this era because all his skills would have been even more to the fore. But he's one of the few that I'd say watches those games back and doesn't think, oh God, that's dated a bit.
Yeah, I think that's right. He's that type of player, and he always that famous interview that Alex Ferguson did when he said he was probably my best ever signing in terms of value for money, in terms of technical ability, in terms of defending and everything that he brought our team. He will go down as one of Man United's best ever, if not best ever fullback, because he, as I said before, he was that good. And the one thing with me, with my international career when I first started, Dennis used to play behind me. So you can imagine what it meant to me to play behind someone, play in front of someone like Dennis, where Dennis was another one. He just said to me, don't worry about me, I'm fine. You stay, I'll get you the ball when I can get you the ball. Stay the other side of the opposition wide man. Don't come back, leave me one-on-one. And that was the message he used to give me. And that was the message that I tried to give to lads if I went to left back as well, whether it was Duffer or McGeady or whoever that was ahead of me. Don't worry about it. Look, if I'm going to get done 1v1, I'll be fine. You stay up the pitch. I'm going to try and get the ball to you. That was the message that Dennis gave me, and I tried to take that into my career when I ended up at fullback.
Interesting. 10 minutes later, Kevin Kilbane screaming up the line, "Forget all that. Get back. Help me. Get back now."
Yeah. No, never. I didn't. I can tell you that. No, I didn't. It didn't happen. I'm sure the guys would tell you that. I used to try and talk to them through positionally at times, maybe sometimes try to stop the ball getting through to players. But no, I didn't. I used to always make sure that they were ahead of me. That I knew full well it was almost like my out ball. If a guy was going at me one-on-one, he may beat me, and that might happen. But I would have always said, look, if I'm going to get the ball and the ball's coming to me, I want you out of shot from me, not 5 yards away, so you're right on top of me. Go 20 yards away, go up the pitch, so you're going to be able to. You'll be in a position where you'll be in more of an attacking position when you get the ball, and that's what I always tried to give to the lads that played ahead of me.
Good man. It's about 25-1 where you are, so I'm sure you got a big night out planned. We will let you go.
No, everything shuts here at 1, Joe. Don't worry about that.
Okay.
There's nothing on for me. It'll be the metro back to the hotel now for me.
Okay. Well, listen, we appreciate it. Thanks so much, Kev. Take care.
Joe, good man. All the best.
Pleasure. Thanks a mil. Kev Kilbane with us live from Doha, where he's just watched Argentina beat Poland by 2-0. Our football show coverage brought to you by Sky. Get more out of the sports you love on Sky Sports Extra. Sports Extra has BT Sport and Premier Sports.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Sky, proud partner and supporter of the Republic of Ireland women's national football team.
This is News Talk. Christmas on News Talk. What's your favourite Christmas bite to eat?
My favourite Christmas bite actually isn't a Christmas dinner. It's the day after the Christmas dinner.
Cheese. Just cheese. Platters and platters of cheese and crackers.
Going to the fridge, opening it up, finding a roast potato that has been left there since the day before, dipping it into yesterday's gravy, cold in the fridge. Boom. straight in the mouth.
Happy Christmas from everyone in News Talk.
Power your way through the working day on Air Business Broadband with seamless connectivity and reliability from just €44.99 a month. Switch today and get €100 off your unlimited fibre broadband bill from Ireland's #1 business broadband provider. For more, visit air.ie/business, go in store or call 1-800-207-407. Air. Let's make possible. Subject to availability. Offers available to new Air Business Broadband customers. Pricing excludes VAT. For full terms, see air.ie/business.
This holiday season, .ie, the managers of Ireland's trusted .ie online address, have teamed up with Guaranteed Irish to encourage shoppers to keep it local and shop from Irish retailers. When you spend €20 with any local Irish business, it's worth over €100 to the Irish economy. So, this Christmas, put the G under the tree. Visit guaranteedirishgifts.ie, your one-stop shop for hundreds of Irish gift ideas. Shop local on a trusted .ie website.
The Black Friday sale continues at Harvey Norman. Shop our range of stylish and affordable bed frames from as little as €149. Save up to €1,300 on top Irish mattress brands including King Coil, O'Dearest and Bryody. Plus, get up to 50% off our range of mattress toppers and duvets. With our best prices guaranteed, in-store and online. So why shop anywhere else? But hurry, the Harvey Norman Black Friday sale must end soon. Don't miss out.
Growing across the Horn of Africa, 350,000 children are at risk of starvation as an impending famine silences them with hunger. They're too weak to make a sound. This Christmas, will you help save young lives from starvation? Visit concern.net and help stop the silence.
We wish you a merry Batman, we wish you a merry Dumbledore, we wish you a merry health and an amazing Maurice. Blockbusters we bring to Shawnee Van Finn. We wish you a Top Gun Maverick, that's on Paramount Plus.
Blockbusters are back this Christmas on Sky Cinema with Fantastic Beasts, The Secrets of Dumbledore, The Batman, The Amazing Maurice and Paramount Plus included at no extra cost. Join or upgrade today. Search Sky Cinema. Paramount Plus setup required. Further terms apply.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Sky, get more of the sports you love on Sports Extra with BT Sport and Premier Sports.
This is News Talk.
You're welcome back. Always great to welcome Marcela Mora Araujo to the show. Marcela, evening.
Hello, good evening.
So Poland didn't throw a whole lot Argentina's way. That said, after a shaky start, are Argentina starting to find their feet at this tournament?
I think, unquestionably, Argentina have found that kind of rhythm and connection between all the players that they'd had at the Copa America, albeit with some new players, Enzo Fernandez and Julian Alvarez particularly, who had their debut these last couple of games, and then today were just spectacular, both of them. But I was surprised. And I thought it was just me that was perceived Poland to not be kind of trying to attack at all. It was quite odd. And I don't know what will happen, as we progress in this tournament and the stakes get higher and higher, that there will be such a lot of space given to Argentina. But definitely for a team that had needed to prove somehow psychologically and emotionally to themselves and to the fans that they were up to it. The performance, I think, was spectacular. And I think Messi was really, really outstanding, which isn't a surprise, but it's kind of the fear we all have. Mm-hmm. Is Messi going to be outstanding? Mm-hmm. And he was. So it was a great game, great second half as well, but a really enjoyable game.
Yes.
I don't really understand what happened to Poland, though, and I doubt that will happen again with other teams.
Yeah, it was very odd, the Polish approach this evening, but it worked for them by hook or by crook. They play France. So France are this explosive side, and we've seen that over the last week or so. Argentina, certainly based on this evening's game, they seem to enjoy that more patient build-up. They love the ball, they like passing, they like patience. They are a team operating at their own leisure. Is that generally their style?
Well, I don't know how much we can say generally, in the sense that throughout Messi's career with Argentina, there's been so many kind of different permutations of this leisurely style, and sometimes it's felt like the most inordinate weight upon him, and sometimes it's looked shambolic and chaotic and messy. Not him messy, but at the same time, I think the way they've reached Copa America finals and a World Cup final before, albeit 8 years ago, the World Cup final, but the Copa America they won last year, it was a little bit like this. And I think, there's sometimes critics towards the possible weakness in defence, or sometimes confusion in the midfield. And I think one of the big worries before this tournament was when Lo Celso was deemed unfit, because he was a real kind of pivot of the midfield, and without him we looked a little bit lost. And then I personally was worried about De Paul last game, but then today that seemed to work. And I think the idea of the Scalonetta, Scaloni and his cohort are known, like a project or a thing, which would be Pablo Aimar and Walter Samuel, who are a midfielder and an amazing defender themselves, is to have a system that works. If one player, you take one out, put another one in, but just slot into like this well-oiled machine. And I think today was a really lovely kind of illustration of how that can work really well. And it's probably got to do with what makes Messi thrive, which is a team that completely understands what they're doing and what their role is and where everyone else is. And thus he can thrive. I mean, I've just had comments coming in from people saying, oh, Messi really is a team player, isn't he? And I think he's not so much a team player as someone who needs the team in order to thrive. And if they can do what they did today again, then that would just be lovely, because it's not just really exciting to win and obviously go through and stay in the tournament, but it's actually really beautiful football to watch. And I think it's football that means something to a lot of people watching here. And it was very, very obvious in the second half that they'd kind of come out with the instruction, pass, fill the spaces, look at each other, don't just lob and throw crosses. And I think that's a style of football that is quite romantically associated with the kind of game we like to watch and play in South America, in the South American cone. I mean, I would say, not just Argentina, but this particular tournament, I think it will be us carrying that
mantle. Yeah, well, they certainly look very comfortable, particularly in the second half, and especially after the first goal, to play that more patient style. Something I wanted to ask you: when they were singing for an hour in the dressing room after the last game, is that something that they generally do, or was this a group who had seen, their life flash before them after a near-death experience early on in this World Cup?
I think it's very common for, the fans here, there's a lot of singing and maybe going into the centre of town, whichever town you happen to be in, and to carry on the hype. It hasn't been happening in Buenos Aires quite that much. There's a little bit of excitement immediately after the games and like dogs barking and things. But the World Cup crowd is not your standard week in, week out football crowd from the Argentina clubs. And in fact, there's quite a lot of celebrities there actually at the moment, because the cameras pick them out. But also I suspect a lot of Argentinians maybe living abroad and living nearer. And it does generate a kind of expat exaltation. Argentina played the Finalissima in London this summer, which was the South American champions against the European champions. It was a match against Italy. And in England, there was no press and nobody really knew it was happening. Londoners were going about their lives as normal. And somehow Wembley filled up with Argentina fans. And there was this kind of post-party chanting and singing that just carried on and sustained. I also get the impression from watching other nations and reading a lot about coverage on the ground of fan behaviour and so on that is being encouraged. Like Doha has set up, fan areas, and it's very much part of the activity that you might do there. But I wouldn't be surprised if they carried on till all hours today.
Yeah. And sorry, I mean, the line might have just skipped there. It was actually the team that stayed in the dressing room singing for an hour. Like
I'm so
players.
sorry. I went on for hours about something else. The team do that. Yes, absolutely. Of course,
that's their thing.
They do.
Okay.
And I mean, we've there's legendary footage of Maradona cheering in 1986 in the dressing room after the game, and it's just completely.
Even for second matches of World Cups, whatever.
For any match, I think where the win was a release as big as it was. I mean that. I don't think that was about a second match in a group stage of a World Cup. I think it was about the pent-up pressure that those guys were feeling, and the sense that it might all be over, that suddenly was, just released.
Yes,
really.
I did wonder, because that was my reading of it as well, and I did wonder if actually having come so close to this World Cup being a complete disaster and survived, that there might almost be a certain pressure off them, that they came so close to disaster that they're now almost weirdly into bonus territory, and maybe they'll play with a touch more enjoyment or touch more freedom, because they did arrive here with such pressure.
I think that they did come close to disaster, and then as you say, there's a release and a second life or an injection, but I think they're all consummate professionals enough to know that they can't just sit on their laurels. And so, now perhaps they just got to the same stage a little early. But now that is what the World Cup is like. It's just one game at a time, and you have to survive it. And then you sing and chant and celebrate. And if not, you're home. So I don't know if it'll be... that this is the mood for the rest of it. But there was something interesting that Scaloni said just after the last game, which was we were exalted and delirious with joy and burst into tears because the singing and chanting in the dressing room came after the sobs, the uncontrollable sobs from everyone. The commentator on the TV burst into tears, and the PE trainers burst into tears, and so on. And Scaloni did say, I think we've got a little bit too much riding on this, and I think we all need to remember it's just a game of football, and we're going to take them one game at a time, and all we can hope to do is play our best. But it obviously worked in the sense that they did play their best. They were ever so good, and so that should carry them through. I hope they don't go all Maradona, kind of we're the best in the world and everybody else is against us, and because I think that's ultimately detrimental for mental health, actually, to put it bluntly. Even though they might win the football match, it's too much madness. This lot aren't mad. That's what's nice about them. They're kind of riding the same emotional wave that the people watching and their family and the terraces and so on. So it just feels healthily normal, but with a really nice performance today, which was kind of built up to incrementally. So that's rather lovely.
Okay, this is all far too well adjusted for what we want from our Argentinian football. We'll see them on Saturday against Australia. Marcela, thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm bringing the phone because there's just background noise as the revs start gearing up for the chanting in Buenos Aires.
Oh wow!
Thank you so
They're
much.
Only getting started. No, it's no problem. Thanks very much, Marcela Araujo, with us there from Buenos Aires, as you heard. So Argentina will play Australia. That's the Saturday 7:00 game. Before that, on the Saturday, you will be treated to Netherlands, USA. And then your Sunday will pitch up as follows. 3:00, Poland against France. And then Sunday evening, England. Against Senegal, 7:00 kickoff. Football Show is brought to you by Sky. Get more of the sports you love on Sports Extra with BT Sport and Premier Sports.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Sky, proud partner and supporter of the Republic of Ireland women's national football team.
This is News Talk.
Taking the perfect selfie. Not as easy as it looks. You need the right angle, lighting, maybe a cheeky little filter. But then, that's it. Your GoDating.ie profile pic is good to go. And Go Dating